Hello and welcome to another segment of Western Wisconsin Journal. I'm Jamie Johnson, the legal and government correspondent, and today we're going to hear about bike and pedestrian trails, and my guest is Tim Witzman, who's representing St. Croix Trails, and thanks for joining us on the show.
Well, thanks for inviting us. One of our initiatives now is to try and get the message out. We've started an effort to understand more about what's happening with the trails, and really the big piece that we heard is we need to communicate. So having this opportunity is great and fits into our communication plan that we're trying to implement. So
well, let's get some facts out here. First of all, who's the we? What organization specifically are you representing here today?
There's a group called the St. Croix Bike and Pedestrian Trail Coalition, and it was really founded by about 3 or 4 people who decided to get together a little over a year ago and just talk about what were the options, aware of the fact that there was a 5-mile loop trail being built as a part of the bridge. It was just a matter of sitting over and having a beer and talking about what could we do to implement and maybe get more support for this, and what would be the next steps.
And now the bridge, we're referring to the Stillwater crossing over to where Holton would be on the Wisconsin side, correct?
Correct.
And there's been talk about a bridge being built, I think, for 40 years there. And now it was about that year ago you mentioned that this group getting together. Was that in the wake of the bridge finally getting approved then?
Yeah, I think that was about the same time, or maybe shortly thereafter, that we realized that all of the political parties had come together and realized there was a need and decided to move forward with the bridge. So.
Well, first of all, and you mentioned about a 5-mile interstate loop trail, and I think we're going to have a slide that we'll be able to show our guests when this gets broadcast. People can actually go online and see an animated version of this. Is that correct?
Correct. If you go to St. Croix Crossing and go to YouTube, there's a nice trail video that shows what it would be like as a pedestrian or a cyclist on the trail following that basically following the new road as well as the new bridge. I think what we find is that as we start talking to people, everybody's aware of the bridge. Some people are aware of the fact that there's going to be a trail combined with that bridge, but I would say it's a minority. So we want to get that word out there, make people aware of the fact that this is a bridge that will have a trail, interstate trail going across from Stillwater into Holton down to St. Joe Township and then back over across the bridge. So. Okay,
and I think here I have a picture that the folks can see if they go on stcroixtrails.com. Is that all one word, or how would you recommend that they get to this site? That's how I accessed it, was St. Croix without any dots or anything.
Yeah, we've actually have a website where there'll be a link on it, and otherwise you can go to YouTube also and just search on St. Croix River Crossing, and you'll find several videos. One that talks about probably the bridge in a little more more detail, showing the actual vehicular traffic, and then there's one that actually breaks down the trail itself into I think it's about 5 segments that they have it broken down into.
Okay, now this would be the new bridge?
Correct.
And then that's south of the current bridge. That's the lift bridge, is that correct?
Correct.
And so basically there's about the same amount of trail on the Wisconsin side as Minnesota, or Minnesota have slightly more, it looks like.
You know, I think it may be slightly more. It actually angles, so there's probably, the Minnesota side actually more closely follows the river, where the Wisconsin side will actually follow the road itself, which will be set back a little bit from the river. But we're looking at that and finding out what other opportunities are there to make that trail and connect it. We see that as kind of the hub of a bike, and we would like to see a lot of trails coming off, just like we would see spikes on a wheel, going to a variety of different things. What are points of interest? And obviously Hudson would be one of those.
Okay. And right now, currently, there is not a dedicated bike trail. And I noticed on your website you have different terms. There's bike route, bike lanes, and bike trails, correct?
Correct.
A bike route is simply a place where bikes would have to share the road with cars, and that's something that's marked so that the people that are driving cars know that there may be bikes in their lane.
Exactly.
Bike lanes would be something that would be separated by some kind of solid line.
Yeah, they're built into when you look at a road or a trail, what you see is that sometimes there may be a 3-foot shoulder that's specifically identified as a bike route. Maybe when that road is built, they've actually identified that there'll be bicycle traffic on it, and then they would actually maybe widen the shoulder and create a 10-foot area for traffic. And then ultimately, what we'd prefer, and probably the most safe way, would be to have an actual separate bike trail that that is off-road. It's not connected to the thing, and it's
May run parallel to the road, though.
Exactly. One of the things we've found is that when you look at the trail system that's being designed, there wasn't a lot of feedback. We first of all, the trail will be on the inside. In fact, it starts, if you wanted to start in downtown Stillwater, it will start by taking the old lift bridge and turning it into just a bike and pedestrian trail, which a lot of people don't even realize that that road will be abandoned, and all of a sudden now it'll become a beautiful area for people to exercise on and see the beauties of the St. Croix Valley. It will also then basically weave up and down weave up the hill, because you've got a rather steep hill that's going up into the Wisconsin side. And then from there it will be following the inside of the road. So one of the first things we found out is that we need to make sure that there are the ability, when you've got an inside trail and you want to move into Wisconsin, that there's got to be safe ways to cross and get into the other areas in Wisconsin, the Somersets, the St. Joe areas, the Hudsons. One of the things we found out quickly was that there were some, I would say, there wasn't the lobbying effort going on the Wisconsin side. One of the things we identified was that as you go on that trail and you come up to 35 on the south end of the trail that will be now connecting to the new bridge, there isn't an off-ramp to get onto 35. So if somebody wants to take that trail and get up on 35 at that point and start heading to Hudson, that does not exist. We did talk to WisDOT about that. They were kind of made aware, and now they're making some adjustments in their planning to make sure that that's a possibility in the future.
Okay.
So we're starting to see that there needs to be an advocate for this trail system that could potentially happen in Wisconsin.
And you had mentioned about needing an advocate on the Wisconsin side. Minnesota side, I've heard, I don't know if they're rumors, but I've heard secondhand that they have plans to hook up like the Gateway Trail, which goes all the way down to downtown St. Paul and out to, I think it's Hugo, to connect that to this trail. Is that correct?
That is correct. I would say they're probably 10 or 15 years ahead of any efforts on the Wisconsin side. They are taking what was the old Zephyr tracks, and that's going to become the Browns Creek Trail and connect via a very safe route to the Gateway Trail. And that will give them access from Stillwater all the way down to pretty much downtown St. Paul.
Well, and vice versa, it will also give folks on the Wisconsin side that same access. Right now, the plans that, I mean, this is being built. It's not like an iffy thing. It is going to occur, this bike trail, the 5-mile loop, correct?
Correct.
What needs to be developed is how Wisconsin folks will have access to that other than some type of park and ride system.
Correct. We don't anticipate that there's going to be very immediate changes to that plan, but we do want to influence it and make sure that we can connect to it. St. Joe has some dollars set aside for MOA or MOU dollars for planning for those future trails, and they're in the process of moving forward with that. We want to make sure that those trails then from St. Joe extend out to other municipalities, because we have some very active communities. New Richmond, as an example, has a number of trails that they've developed, and we'd like to see those trails eventually connect to there. And then if you go up further north, you've got the Gandy Dancer, and you've got the Red Cedar, and a whole series of trails that exist in western Wisconsin, but just really don't connect further than the length of that trail in its area. So.
Right. I think that we have a very beautiful part of the state. We've got this national treasure, the St. Croix River. We just need to be able to take advantage of that. Whereas in the southern part of the state, they've got also scenic area, but they have very interconnected trails in southern Wisconsin.
Yeah, one of the things I saw as a part of putting together a presentation, it seems like Google Maps is everywhere. Well, I went out to look at Google Maps and see I wanted to see the bike. I was trying to just print some information, and in going and looking at bike trails, if you look across the river, you're going to see just the whole Twin Cities area has a series of trails. If you look on the Wisconsin side, there's just small segments. And in fact, one of the things that I think would be very beneficial is if you look at what's down in Hudson, there's an actual trail that crosses 94 and connects. And I believe there's an interest in maybe making that trail connect both on the Minnesota and Wisconsin side. So instead of being a 5-mile loop, it might be a 15-mile loop when you look at that big picture.
Well, for us that are longer distance runners like I am, that would be very welcome so that pedestrians can also enjoy this. Maybe I did jump ahead a little bit, but why don't you, folks can go on the website, we've already talked about that, but what is the mission of the coalition then? And why don't you tell it to the folks?
Really, I think if we were to say what the mission is, it's really to really assist local municipalities in the efforts that they are doing with regards to trails. That may be really working with a municipality and assisting them with grant writing. It may be really supporting, for instance, in the same, give you an example, St. Croix County had a bike and pedestrian plan that dated back to 2008. It did not include the 5-mile loop trail. We've worked with the county and tried to support them and make them aware of opportunities, and they have applied for a $150,000 TAP grant, which would be a planning grant to really develop a comprehensive plan for bike and pedestrian trails in St. Croix County. We have supported that, and we, in the last year's Bike Federation meeting, talked to a number of representatives and got information. We're able to provide that. So we're working, I would say, closely with the county, trying to assist them, realizing that it's their efforts that really need to move forward, but they need all the support they can get. So,
and well, we have a lot of overlay of different governmental entities here. We've got, you mentioned St. Joe Township. We're going to have Village of North Hudson, City of Hudson, hopefully hooking up with this. And then you got the county level, and of course the state and the federal, because a lot of federal dollars are being put into this project as well.
Yes, exactly. And there's a lot of, I think earlier on I mentioned that there were a number of interested parties outside of the local governments. We've got a beautiful state park, Willow River State Park, that would like to see their people, or I should say the people that stay at the state park, be able to bicycle possibly to that loop trail. If you can picture yourself maybe deciding you wanted to do a 30-mile bike for a couple of days and staying over at a beautiful park like Willow River State Park and have a trail that would connect to that, and you might be able to bike all the way into St. Paul from Willow River on safe and safe routes for bicycles.
Excellent. Well, what can folks do other than become more aware of this? Obviously, you're trying to just raise awareness at this point, but how do people that are motivated to help, what could they do?
I think at this point what we're trying to do is get the word out, because I think once people are aware of the opportunity that we have, you gain support. And I think there's probably some misconceptions about, what's this going to cost us.
Right.
If we talk about trails, obviously everybody's concerned about their taxes, but there's a lot of funding mechanisms outside of local taxes that will allow us to support that. They could, if they're interested, we have monthly meetings, and those are available both on our website, and we have a Facebook page, so I can provide you with that information too. So if they want to just stay up to date on what's happening, that's an option. If they want to become involved, we certainly have some interest in. We've grown from 4 people sitting around at a table, maybe 18 months ago to, having meetings of 25 to 30 people, as well as even developing a communication subcommittee out of our efforts. So we realize it's a long haul, because what happened in the Wisconsin side happened over a series of multiple years, and we need to be prepared for that long haul on the Wisconsin side. Okay.
And just to let those folks who have joined us since we started know, I'm talking to Tim Witzman, who's a representative from the St. Croix Coalition, Bike and Pedestrian Trail Coalition. We mentioned how this is going to be both bikes and pedestrian. Right now, there is a park and ride area that's designed into the whole bridge and trail system, isn't that true?
Yeah, there's a parking ride lot that will be over by the, I think it's just down from the
Holton School.
It will, accommodate a certain number of riders. We're also anticipating that, that's something maybe they want to look at, because when you look at the number of the amount of traffic that we have, this could support both bike and pedestrian people that want to go out and take advantage of this trail, as well as those people who maybe are commuting back and forth to the Twin Cities or other areas around the St. Croix County. So we're kind of working closely with the county. There's just all kinds of opportunities, like for instance the Art Bench Trail. I think with time there will be some designs of that trail, the pedestrian trail and bike trail, and we want to make sure that we take advantage of the opportunities that are there. I've probably said that too many times in this meeting, or in our interview, but there are a lot of opportunities that are out there.
And you had mentioned how you've grown from 4 people to like 25 regular attendees, and even to the point of developing subcommittees. But it is really crucial to get those contacts at the various governmental levels and get that whole thing coordinated.
Correct.
So you mentioned the website again. Simple YouTube search will get to the animation. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then do you have specific contacts at any of the township levels if folks are interested in, I don't know if lobbying is the word you want to do, but making a contact with their local government officials on this? Have all parties concerned been involved up to this point?
I think initially we looked at some of the neighboring municipalities and governmental organizations, and some have actually appointed representatives. Some have people that just stay in tune. They're actually a member of maybe the council or have an interest in cycling. So we're trying to gather, expand that support, because we realize that, this TAP grant is an example. Somerset Township applied for one also, and Baldwin, 2 other municipalities that really wanted to improve bike trails in their areas. So we want to expand beyond just the western Wisconsin or western St. Croix County to include all of St. Croix County, and also make those connections with entities outside of St. Croix County.
Okay.
As
you get more entities too, I'm assuming that then that opens up more potential, both federal dollars as well as maybe private foundations.
Exactly.
Now, you're not to the status yet of a 501c3 or some kind of tax deductible, are you?
No, we're not at that point. So at this point, it's really, it's the efforts. We are looking at that. There's another biking organization in St. Croix County that has one, and I think maybe have made some decisions that we might set up our own. But realizing that at some point we need to be able to have a nonprofit status and the ability for people who may want to make donations. We're really not at a point of funding things ourselves, but making those parties that can make things happen in their municipalities, in government areas, aware of the opportunities. There's lots of grants, lots of foundations, things like that.
Now, one thing I looked very briefly on your website. Is there a link on there to the monetary benefits of these types of trails? Because I know that there is information out there. It's certainly how some of the other parts of the state developed their trails, was to show that what this can do for tourism, for example, and just boost the economy when people use this, whether it's pedestrian or bicycling.
Yeah, there was a report done, and I apologize, I don't have the name of that report, but it was done at the state level. And one of the interesting facts is that the economic impact of cycling, and that would be from the industry standpoint and from the recreational standpoint, is about $900 million a year. And when you think about it, we think we take pride on the deer hunting that happens in Wisconsin, and that's about a $1.2 billion economic impact. But cycling is very close to that number, and hopefully we can make that number grow. There's small towns like in Minnesota that I think they would be very surprised to know what the economic impact is. It's millions of dollars for a small town.
Sure.
The Sparta Elroy Trail.
That's the one that I think of, and that goes over 100 miles. So one of the points, I guess, that we want to make here is that the St. Croix River is a national treasure. It's a national park, actually, and but yet people, I have relatives across the country, and they say, you live, next to this beautiful river, you must use it all the time. And really, people are limited because unless you own land that's on the river, you don't get to have as much access. The public accesses are limited, but this is one way that the public can access this scenic treasure.
Yeah, very good point. It's in our backyards, we take it for granted, and I think maybe this is a little bit of an opportunity to not take it for granted.
And combine something that gets folks out and recreating.
Yeah. We're trying to gather some of the statistics, but I think we can live and die by statistics. But we know that whenever you can create an environment where people find it beneficial to go out and enjoy the beautiful scenic riverway, and whether it be bicycling or taking a nice hike around, those are just great things to do for the residents of St. Croix County and Wisconsin. So,
well, Tim, I want to thank you for coming on the show, and good luck.
Thank you so much.
And good luck in your efforts to catch us up to Minnesota, and so that we can, have some of the similar benefits they have.
Well, and I hope that maybe in about 6 months to a year, and we could be back on here and give you some updates on what's happened, what the successes have been, because, I think we're just seeing a lot of enthusiasm. Everybody that has come to our meetings just says, I've had an interest in this for many years, and now we're starting to see it, and they want to continue the excitement and the enthusiasm and the efforts to make things happen in Wisconsin with bike trails and pedestrian trails.
Well, great. Thank you again, Tim, and thank you for joining us for another segment of Western Wisconsin Journal.